Welcome to the episode of DIOTALK. I'm Dio. Let's talk. Today, my guest is a environmental activist, but also an entrepreneur. Give a warm welcome to Joao Vilca Soto. Welcome to the show, bro. How you doing?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dio. I'm doing great. It's really fun to do a podcast here with you. Yeah.
It's an honor. So what's up? What's new? I was looking at your website, your nonprofit, your environmental activity. So what's going on? What would you like the people to know about what you're doing right now?
Sure, sure. So the biggest thing right now is that my team and I, we just launched Income Merch. It's a website where you can find clothes with indigenous designs and other naturally inspired designs. And when we make our products, we've selected companies that help us get recycled materials when we make our clothes. And this whole process was an idea that we've had a nonprofit for a while that we were working on projects and people were asking for like, hey, can I buy some clothes to support your cause? And in the process of doing that, of looking into that, we were like, yeah, we can help you get some clothes, but I mean, I feel like I would rather have people, if they're gonna buy clothes, buy something they're gonna use more often, not just something representing one company, but something that represents more styles and such. And me and some of my friends who are Peruvian, we've always been looking around for places where we can buy clothes with Incan things on them. And
Mhm.
you can find some stuff on Etsy, but there's in one place where you can actually find things that are specifically for like indigenous Incan populations. So that's where the idea came out of, to be able to provide that for people, especially people from indigenous Andean descents that are looking for just more places where they can connect more to their ancient culture. And then all the profits that we make from that business, we put them into the nonprofit and other efforts that we see and we work with that help indigenous Latin American communities. So that's what I've been working on like this month, this season with the holiday season coming up. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
let's jump on it. Let's make this happen because I think it'd be a cool thing to have in the
That's
market.
awesome. Yes, yes. I totally agree. There's nothing more important, right? That we get in tune back to our roots, right? I think I'm not. You live in America right now?
I do like the Seattle area.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's one thing because I grew up in Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah.
Like I was born here, but I grew up in Puerto Rico, and one thing that I was never taught, right? Because people teach you, and teachers will not teach you in school, right? But that's once you grow up and you enter college or your own self-taught things, you start learning about your culture. I think that's one thing I regret being taught is like my roots. Never got a chance to learn about that.
No, same. I mean, I've grown up in the U.S. for almost 20 years now, but I was born in Peru, and I spent a little bit of time like with some of my grandparents. I had the farm in near Lake Titicaca in like a
Oh
mountain
no,
range there.
yes,
But that was a very small experience that I have. I didn't really get much of a chance to really understand the culture and everything. But I've always been fascinated by it because I've been studying sustainable development and it came in touch with learning more about indigenous communities. I've had the fortune of learning more about Andean culture. And it's beautiful because through the process, I've been able to learn more about like the values that held
mm,
the empire together, that held communities together, and their values that really kind of have helped me in my current life now, really to kind of feel more balanced, feel more, empowered, and feel more confident in the fact that we were born in this land, and we have the power to really shape it into something beautiful, like our ancestors did. I mean, you look at like ruins and designs from ancient communities, and
yeah.
they were beautiful. They're beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Was that experience the reason you got inspired to create all this, start the nonprofit, the clothing, the love for the environment you have?
So the going back to the family and all that in Peru, that I guess that inspired me a bit because when I went to my grandparents' farm, like the meals that we had harvested them straight from the area around us, so that was cool. But the moment where I really kind of got motivated into environmental action and putting my efforts towards that, was about 7 years ago. I was in a volunteers program called AmeriCorps, and we traveled all throughout the West Coast for 10 months, helping different organizations. And there was this one task that we went on where we had to wake up at like 5 a.m. every day, drive for 3 hours in the snow in the mountains of Oregon
Wow.
to go put some tree logs like on the ground in a way that will help like reduce water flow. But it was crazy because like we pack up all our gear and I have all these clothes on, all these coats on, and I have to walk like 3 miles in the snow on a mountain carrying tools in the
Wow.
middle of nowhere. And it was just like I was born in a little town in Peru on the coast, and back when I was young, I never even imagined doing something like that. And being in a place like that was so cool, and seeing like just being surrounded by snow and trees and mountains, it just felt like such a deep experience of like, wow, I really am a part of everything around me. And from there, I kind of decided to like learn more about like what environmental action was. Then I started sustainability, and then I went and studied in the Amazon rainforest
Oh,
for
nice.
yeah. So I was able to spend a few months there. This picture behind me is I took it in there as well. And then yeah, and then I continued my studies. Did some studies in Iceland after that too, and then I started my own nonprofit with some friends. Yeah, and then I started another small business before Income Merge. Where I rented out a camper van I built, and that kind of helped raise funds to kickstart a nonprofit. So then now we have like a nice, decent annual budget that we can at least start working on projects with. And with that, we were able to we have a 20-acre lot in Chelan that we're going to reforest. And then we're going to create a little community forest there so that as that area grows, there'll still be green spaces around there where people can go and, get a little bit of that peace and that wonder where they can connect with nature.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
that's amazing. That's awesome. I think that's one of the things we need in society, right? I mean, because I live in the city and we don't get that. We don't get that. And I grew up with that. So like I sometimes I get nostalgia, right? Like, I know you can relate, like when it's nighttime, you're able to see the stars, right? Here in the
oh, wow.
city, yeah, here in the city, like for years, because I've been living here almost 10 years now or more. And every time I look up, it's just, nothing, just the
Yeah.
fumes of lights everywhere. It sucks. That's what it just sucks.
It does. It does a bit. Yeah. Because, I mean, the stars are such a big part of our reality,
Hmm.
and you look at different communities that they really value the stars and the cosmos and how it affects our life. And even the Andes, the Incas, they were really um, connected to their cosmovision, which they call it, where they would understand that that they could channel energy from the stars and everything. I don't know what belief systems you have, but and even I don't know, I myself don't fully align with the values of everything, but it's fascinating to see how there's a history of people connecting to the stars and not having a view of the sky. It does suck. It does suck not having that connection.
Yeah, yeah. It's the also the culture, right? The culture and where, like, I remember growing up, like it was Monday through Friday. Friday used to hit, we will go to the beach or enjoy these natural amenities, right? Like
Mhm.
here, it's been a culture shock for me because it's like everything runs 24/7, 24/7. It's not really enjoyable. Sometimes you need to enjoy what is nature.
You do because we are part of nature. Actually, one of our collections that we have is the We Are Nature collection, which just takes like the signs from jungles, beaches, and stuff, and puts them on clothes so that we can feel like we're part of nature because we are. There is something to the seasons where in the summers we're more active, and in the winters we're more, we are more lay low, we're more relaxing because we have cycles in our body just like the earth has cycles too. And when we don't follow them, we kind of, we get off balance and then we get confused and then we get lost and then we get stressed and that's not good.
Yeah, yeah. That's 100% true. What is your, like, while you've been doing this for so long, right? what is one thing you've encountered numerous of times and where you feel like, okay, the earth is shifting this way, we need to shift this way in order to find that balance again? Like, is there
Mhm.
something that worries you? Because there's a lot of like, we shouldn't eat animals. We should be more vegan, or we should recyclable more. What is the one thing that concerns you and your team at least?
Yeah. Um, to be fair, we used to be a lot more worried about all those things. Like damn, climate change is really kind of taking a turn, and it's really scary at times, especially when you see news about climate things
Yeah.
happening. Even here in Seattle, we had the longest summers we've ever had, and then immediately it became one of the coldest winters we've ever had, and we've never had something like that. But I mean, there's a point where, and my team though is concerned in a lot of things, but for myself personally, I've kind of learned to adapt the viewpoint that what's happening in the world around me, very little I can do with it. And if I let those fears and stressors, if I carry them with me, they're gonna just slow me down. Um, the way the Inca saw is that we're all energy, and one good thing about it that I've kind of thought to more is that there isn't good and bad energy in the view of the Incas. There's light and heavy. Sometimes people are lighter and they're friendlier, they're nicer, they're more calm. Um, and the Incas used to they call that Aini. It's like the flow of the earth of Aini is this love reciprocity where we care for each other. You see somebody that needs help, you help them out, and when you need help, people will help you out. And in this cycle of reciprocity, we just care for each other, and we're all in balance and and safe. And our goal is to create that light energy that goes with that balance of caring for each other. But sometimes we get stressed out, sometimes we get hurt, sometimes things happen, and our energy, instead of being light and flow, it becomes heavier and becomes sturdier. And sometimes, because of that, we just get lost and confused. And I think right now, what we need to do is really understand that if we want to make a change in the world around us, a positive change, a more calming change in this idea of Aini and caring for each other, we have to try and make sure that we ourselves can create a lighter energy with us. Because when we're stressed out, when we're angry, chances are we're gonna just spread that energy too. But when we're more calm and we're more caring and we're more loving, chances are we're gonna spread that more too. So I think a lot of what the world is seeing right now is not so much about what the world is doing as a whole, but it's more about individuals, how we perceive ourselves. And sometimes when we get afraid of the world and we get too stressed, then we do way less. We do way less. So I'm not saying don't get stressed out about things, but
Yeah, yeah. Have a
yeah,
balance.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
You know.
No, I get it. I get it 100%. Um, what are some of the activism your organization fight to better?
Some of the things we do to improve things.
Yeah.
So right now, what we're working on is bringing more outdoor access to BIPOC communities. So we have this Pierce property that it's still being worked on,
Hmm.
but we want to camp there every now and then. But we have tools and supplies to help people go camping. So what we're trying to do is trying to set up a system where we communicate with other BIPOC nonprofits and environmental nonprofits and set up partnerships where we can have some of the people come out to our land and learn and go outside and connect with nature. And then also, if they have projects where they need help, we can also help them connect them to some of our staff and other volunteers that can go and help them and just work outside. Because, I mean, even just taking a walk outside makes my day a lot better. So just getting some people outside, I think, would be some good.
So it's
Um,
like a retreat, like something then where you guys are providing a whole experience.
Yeah, yeah. We're still working on setting that service plan out, but the hope is that you'll come with the team for like a weekend to go camping somewhere. Part of that time, we'll spend a couple of hours maybe planting some trees or doing something for the planet,
Nice. Yeah.
and that will help reduce the cost, but also help you give something you can learn about. And then after those couple hours of work, you get to spend a weekend camping with other people, spending some time together, learning, enjoying, relaxing, whatever, you know.
Yeah,
We don't
bonding.
have to work that much, but as long as we work a little bit, as long as
Yeah,
we
yeah.
give as we take, it's in
Yeah.
balance.
Where's this located? Is this in Peru or in here at the States?
This is in the States for now, just as we're starting to develop the system. But with the nonprofit, we have started to work in Peru, and we have a team in Peru. But we're right now we're just trying to set up all the legal aspects of working in two countries as an organization. So, but yeah, our hope is that in the next 2 years we'll start having some similar projects in Peru as well to
Nice.
help back there as well. Yeah.
Nice. Now you mentioned you've gone to all these parts of the world, right? Like, what is the one thing fascinating you have found, like history wise, that is like it's like, give you a sense of shock, but like, wow.
Mhm. I've been to a lot of places, but I think one of the most captivating ones was a very small one that I experienced. I went to Nicaragua, I think about 2 years ago, and I went to this island called the island of Ometepe. It's in the middle of Lake Nicaragua, and it's two volcanoes in the middle of like the largest lake in Central America.
Wow.
So
That's
what, like
incredible.
even before you get to the island, like looking at the island from the offshore, it's just like, wow, that is that really a place? Like these two volcanoes in the middle of a lake. It's cool, but I was able to spend like a week there, stayed at like a permacultural hostel and learn more about how they were doing things and met some great people. But I took a day to walk to one of the corners of the islands. So I went to this museum. It was this little museum about the indigenous peoples of the island. And it was cool because you go in there and you see a lot of similarities from other cultures. So I asked them, so how is this connected to other cultures? And they were saying like, well, here in Nicaragua, because we're Central America and we were like between the Aztecs and the Incas, there are records of like both of them going through there, not like large empires like that, but like more like traders that would go through there. So there was some contact of these two major indigenous Latin American empires, even though people say they didn't really contact each other, but there are records of it. And you can see it in the small cultures that were in between these two empires, like these people that, yes, you see have these powerhouses and the extremes of you, but you're still part of your own community, your own world. You're on this island that's a volcano and
Hmm.
nobody's going to come bother you there. So you're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
and the most fascinating thing is that you do have this idea of like this island being a peaceful place, and that's an idea that's stuck through the centuries. Like even going there, most people there were just like some of the friendliest, nicest, just most grounded people I've met in a long time. So it was really cool to see that. And there's even um the guy who wrote The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer,
Yeah.
Mark Twain. Mark Twain. He went to that island and he also wrote a nice poem about how this is such an awesome little island where you do feel like you're disconnected from all of the other noise of the rest of the world in this small, little, wonderful, magical place. Um, but yeah, I think that would be one of my most exciting experiences that I've come across with history. And it's not really like deep history of human history, but just deep history about
A
just
culture.
yeah, just culture, just planet, just values, what really sticks through time.
Yeah, yeah. I get it. 100%. What is there when you dive deep in this history, like do you have any opinion regarding like what happened? Because some of them just like picked up and disappeared.
Hmm. Um,
I mean,
well,
I know it's just a tech maybe a technical question to ask, right? Because but in your opinion, like do you have a hunch, right, or something?
of what happened to these cultures?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, in my perspective, it's like yes, the Incas and the Aztecs they were conquered by the Spaniards, um, and it wasn't so much that they were conquered. I mean, the two states were weak through disease and stuff like that, so it was more like an opportune moment for the Spaniards. I feel like. Um, but then there's history records of the Incas. Their settlements were burned down, they were cut down, like European culture came by and just
just mess everything up like you always do.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, history has very little contradicting, facts against that. But I mean, they have their ideas. They have their ideas.
Yeah, I mean it's a tedious, difficult, uncomfortable conversation to have because if you look at like when the US bombed, I think Japan or Tokyo, one of those countries, right? With the nuclear bomb, years later they started installing the almost American culture, the corporations. And when you
Mhm.
go now to those countries, like the corporation, the way they move, they act business wise, it's almost American like. So
It is.
so so I mean, in my opinion, I can easily say like the Europeans came and they do what they do.
They do, and I think it's just because a lot of that, a lot of European history is also caught up in violence. You have to protect
Yes, yes.
your lordship. You have to do that, and always combating barbarians or enemies and stuff like that. So growing up with so much conflict, that is an initial reaction when they met indigenous cultures. I'm trying to be forgiving because that's something our ancestors did. That's not in my lifetime what happened, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to be objective about it all. But then, yeah, but then a lot of the rooting cultures from those, conquering nations, they kept this idea that you have to compete against others, you have to like take others down. And even after, the countries were freed, you have historical records of all over Latin America, the U.S. coming by. I don't know if you know much about the Jersey Boys and how they had this economic ideas to to Chicago that were spread throughout South America,
Hmm.
and then that's when they worked with dictators, and then a lot of activists throughout Latin America, a lot of people that would try to unite their people to better their lives and protect themselves. Those people were taken down, and they were marketed as communist target, um, and then they were just kept down for a long time, which is a shame. I remember reading a story through my studies about a group of like students, like 16-year-old students that were started organizing themselves to request for lower bus fares so they could get to school, and that sort of community organized and got them on like some of those like communist red lists for the CIA, and they were just kids looking for cheaper buses, and
Wow.
it's just like wow. I mean, I think in the end it's just people trying to defend themselves, and when you're trying to defend yourself, and you come into conflict with somebody else, if you guys don't respond properly, if somebody responds with aggression and somebody else responds with understanding, there's just confusion and such. And it's a shame that our history has been plagued by that, but I do feel like now that our generation is growing up in a world where we have the opportunity to hear the voices of different communities, like like us, even with my project, you can hear more about the viewpoints of the Incas. People from all over the world, from Palestine, Israel, every single group of people is able to speak their minds now, and we can listen. And it's kind of a difficult time for our generation too, because now we have to decide, where do I stand in the midst
Hmm.
of every single viewpoint of the world.
Hmm.
But it's also a beautiful moment because then we get to like really analyze all the different cultures, and we don't have to select a single one, but we are able to take and pick from each culture what works best for a you know
The
solid
world.
society.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
And
think I think like in my opinion, like in America, that's something that makes us or break us, right? Because we live in a country that, the name states united,
mhm,
but each state, with more cultures coming out and wanting their respect, right? Because at the end of the day, we all want to be respected, whether you're Hispanic, Muslim, Indian, black. And I feel like the more they're doing that, we're kind of like segregating one another and
absolutely.
being separating. And
Mhm.
we have here rather than act united. I think one thing that we all want in common is just respect, no matter what color. And that's a different conversation because we all feel we want our culture or race to move forward first. And I think that's for as long as we look at one another with regarding race instead of being a person or human beings. If we were able to treat one another as a human being, we all can get on the same mindset, no matter where you're coming from, no matter how you look like, or your skin of your the color of your skin. We can make a difference, you know. And I just, it's so like history is so beautiful, and many cultures you can learn so much, and I would like to see more progress in that way.
And I think it's something that we've been seeing, and even it's not something that we just see in small actions anymore too. We're seeing it in like bigger moments, even in our media. I don't know if you've seen the new Black Panther movie, but
Yes, yes.
okay, yeah, even the way they kind of incorporated other indigenous cultures to be showcased on the big screen.
Which it was beautiful. It was
I
beautiful.
I it was exciting. It was really exciting to see a Latin American superhero finally. But it's but you know, and even though we're two different cultures, we get to work together to
Hmm.
really lift each other up. And it's not about lifting each other up against Western culture. It's just to lift each other up so we can take care of each other and take care of others so we can. And that's really the all we need to do. This whole
Yeah.
concept of like our culture being better than other ones.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's
I think it's just sometimes it's that mentality, having the master race,
mm,
right? Or they're more than us, and any bad day, they're gonna overcome us or something like that, right? And just getting out of that mindset, and we're people first.
yeah.
We've evolved in a certain way, and where there's no such thing as conquerors, or I want to go to war for this land or whatnot. We've
Mm,
created in our respective countries civilized society, and where we can create relationships, speak and partake with one another in a peaceful manner. Wars, the unfortunate wars are made by older men that are bitter and eagle with egos. We're
mhm.
not fighting, a country's war. We're fighting somebody's ego.
Yeah, a lot of times it is like that. It's not like war benefits a lot of people, except usually a few select individuals.
Yeah.
So, it's the sad truth of it. Um, but then again, at least we have a history of that, and enough cases in our history that we can learn from it and then understand that in the future, yeah, they might have had the reason for war, for taking first action to protect themselves,
Mm-hmm.
or to just make sure they had the resources to, supply for themselves or have the land that they needed to take care of themselves. Whatever reason you have to fight for your own
Mm-hmm.
respect, that's your reason. You have it right to it. But it comes to a point now, especially nowadays, as you're saying, where we're more connected, we're more civilized, where before conflict, we have to think about, okay, how can we solve this, without
Yeah.
conflict? How
Yeah.
can we resolve this in a way that is mutually beneficial and anything like that? And there is definitely a mentality change that we have to do
Mm-hmm.
as a human race to transcend that, and for lack of a better word, to just you know it's start looking at the world a little brighter. Like there's a chance there's less danger in the world now than there was hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
years ago.
Yeah. One
So
one thing that I continue to encounter is that it's how you want to see history, right? Because if you look through any demographic, multicultural countries, like there's a lot of war and horror, right? So,
mhm.
sometimes I feel that uh us as a culture, we stay stuck on the bad stuff, and we stay stuck on what was done to our people, right? And everyone has a valid point. We can't take that away from anybody. We can't also um say we were this was worse than ours, and when in reality everything was just wrong.
Hmm.
We and one thing I've learned is like throughout life is when you're stuck in the past, and you only think about the bad things, you're gonna be there forever.
Yeah, there's definitely an aspect of when bad things happen to you and you let it,
Hmm.
you feed into it. You let a trauma kind of become a part of you. It will affect your behaviors. It will affect the way you react to things. Because
Hmm.
if you have fear within you, then it it becomes a part of you. It really does become a part of you. And I myself have had my own history from living in Peru, where I've had my traumas and everything that it takes time, and I'm even still working through them. It takes time to really look at the world without that fear, understand that some of those fears that we've had, some of those injustices that have happened in the
Yeah.
past, they're things that even though we don't want to, we have to know how to forgive as well, so that we can move forward in the future, not being plagued by these fears. And yeah, I think there's something to forgiveness that really can help people step forward and
Yeah, I think like yet again, my opinion, right? Like I think especially media focus more on the gruesome part and forgets to mention there's also beautiful moments throughout
Mhm.
history, and I keep saying it, but the demographic, the multicultural, there are things in history regarding our ancestors, like they were beautiful, from
Mhm.
clothing to beautiful rituals, uh peaceful offerings, things like of that nature that they don't speak much of.
Not as much anymore, and it's a shame because I think there's an importance to it all, because you look at cultures all over the world, they all had their rituals, they all had their beautiful dresses, their beautiful clothes, their beautiful foods,
Values.
their moments of gathering, their moments of remembrance, their moments of mourning too. We have cultures that have really understood the fact that there is something to the human spirit, where we have to take the time to, as much time as we spend now looking at the bad things of the world, we also have to spend time looking at the good things in the world, and we also have to take the time to take care of ourselves and be in that balance. And I think every culture did it in a different way. Maybe they called it different things, but in the end, we all have a human spirit, and we all gotta take care of it somehow.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and the way we're doing it now, it's not really the best way, to be honest.
Yeah, I
Um,
get it 100%. Well, you're a non-profit organization. Do you have any mission statement and where you want the people to know about regarding your organization?
um, The organization, yeah. So our mission is with Ruta Verde is to create a more sustainable, regenerative future by using sustainable technologies, and bringing them to people that don't have access to them as much. So one of our biggest projects right now is with aquaponics. That was the idea that gave birth to the nonprofit. So aquaponics is a system where you're able to grow fish and grow food in a
Oh,
closed cycle, where the water gets cycled through the fish. You feed the fish, and then the waste from the fish gets cycled to the plants, and that feeds the plants. And then
wow.
the system saves like 90% of the water over traditional farming, and we're looking to bring that technology to more rural, more like desert, arid areas in Peru, and that's what we're working on right now. I went there earlier this year to start working on building the system and working with the team to start getting things, process started. And we also connected with the local Rotary Club to like talk more about this technology and how we're hoping to come back in the future and giving some of the people their resources so that they themselves can study and they themselves can learn it on their own, and then we just come by and help them do it by themselves, because they can. I know they can. I'm from it. I've met. They're my friends that I grew up with, and I know they're more than capable than fixing their own communities. It's just that they need someone to believe in them, and just a little bit of help sometimes. And no, it was cool. It was cool. Even the United Nations through FAO, they have a aquaponics guide, and I was able to email them and they were able to translate their guide that was only in Italian and English. They changed it to Spanish, and I was able to get
Wow,
that on the team
that's
too.
awesome. That's cool.
But it's cool how even just a regular guy like me, just honest, it did help having the nonprofit's name as a backup. Like, hey, here's this is a legitimate thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's not like it was some people asking for money or some scams, or it was actually a professional thing, structurized.
exactly. Someone, and I think that's why I do enjoy having a nonprofit and starting businesses because it kind of gives you more legitimacy when you're trying to take action in the world. But yeah, by reaching out to them, but it's just like that, they were able to really help out. And just yeah, I'm just a regular here, and I get to have help from one of the largest organizations in the world. It's really amazing the kind of world we live in. It's just we have to learn how to navigate through it and stick through to what we need to do. Which in my opinion, to care for each other. Anybody else's opinions, I would like to listen to them as well before I make any judgment because I'm only limited to my own experiences in this world.
Yeah,
I'm acting based on what I know from what I've seen, but I can learn more and grow from it, hopefully. Yeah.
that's awesome. Now, one last question before we go. In your area of expertise, right? In your journey throughout this life and all the experience you have gained, do you have any, or can you give one piece of advice to anybody just trying to do what you're trying to do? Just help the world be a better place.
Yeah. Um, Take time with it. I feel like I've done a lot because I rushed through it, but um, I did have to deal with the burnout of it all and everything. The world's gonna go on, and even after everything I do, there's still gonna be, light and heavy things in the future. So don't let that get you yet, but take it easy, work on yourself, prepare yourself, and when you're ready to, jump into the world and make a difference in it, the world will be there, will be ready for you. But it's okay to take your time. It really is. You're not alone anymore, and I know I'm not alone. There's a lot of us out here doing cool things to help the world and make it a better place. So take care of yourself too, because if you take care of yourself and you do your best work, it'll feel fun. So yeah.
Boom, there you go, guys. Before we go, tell the people where they can find you at.
Yeah, so you can find our website www.incomemerch.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at incomemerch. And then for myself, if you want to follow more of my personal journey and all the projects I work with, organizations I work with, you can follow me at JVS, and that's at JAVEOUS. Thank you so much, Dio. It
Boom,
was very
it's
fun.
an honor. It's an honor having this conversation. Whenever you want, you're free to welcome back. We chop it up, talk about some future projects. Once again, thank you for joining me tonight. Have a good night, guys. I'm out.